Hello and welcome to the South Carolina Preservation Toolkit. This video is going to demonstrate how to use the toolkit. We'll show each of the tools that we have as well as the preservation topics, and we'll go more in depth a little bit on how you can best use the toolkit to advance your historic preservation goals for your Black history sites. This is our main page, so when you pull up scpreservationtoolkit.com, this is what you'll see. You'll see our logo here at the top, and then you'll see our navigation bar with our pull-down menus, which we'll look at in a bit. If you continue to scroll down, you will see our mission statement. The Goja Foundation has developed a preservation toolkit to help a growing number of organizations meet their preservation goals for African American history. The toolkit is a one-stop shop of interactive resources and information for property owners, practitioners, preservationists, and especially newly enthusiastic local activists. If you continue scrolling down, you'll see our preservation topics. So these are topics that you might want to learn more about. Say that you are maybe new to historic preservation and you might not know exactly where to start, but you know that you have a historic Black church or historic Black cemetery that you want to preserve. You can go directly into these topics here, and these topic pages are like curated pages on these topics. So you'll see we have churches, cemeteries, genealogy, museums and artifacts, schools, public buildings, neighborhoods, and oral histories. So this is an easy way to kind of jump right into some of our resources. If you'll continue scrolling down, you'll see this how to use section. So this is a little bit of a primer on how to use the toolkit. So you can navigate by preservation topic, which is what I just showed up here with our topics such as neighborhoods and oral histories. Or you can search by a specific tool. So if you are maybe already familiar with preservation, you've already maybe started your preservation project and you know exactly what you need help with, you can go specifically to the tools you need quickly from the navigation bar. You can also scroll down a little bit further and there'll be more tools right here, so you can click on each of these and go to the tools that way too. Our tools are community and connections, grants and funding, help with advocacy, how-to guides, preservation projects, rules, regulations, and requirements, and preservation experts. If you continue scrolling, you'll also see our news and notes, which is our blog. We have a bunch of blog posts on topics all across the field of historic preservation focused on African American history. So you can click into some of our featured blog posts here. And finally, at the bottom, we have a little bit of a description of what is historic preservation. Again, if you're new to preservation work, you might want to know, well, what exactly is historic preservation and what are some common terms that are used in the field? You can learn more about that here, and I'll show you how to navigate that as well. So going back up to the top here, let's look at our navigation bar. So if you click at any point on our logo, the SC Preservation Toolkit right here, it will take you back to the home page. If you hover over the menu here, you'll see our tools. So we have grants and funding, preservation experts, preservation projects, how-to guides, rules and regulations, community and connections, and help with advocacy. These are those preservation topic pages in this pull-down menu that I mentioned before. So you can also access them through this navigation bar at the top. Under the Why Preservation tab, here's where you'll find that information about what is historic preservation. You'll also find our glossary of terms. If you click on News and Notes, directly you'll be taken to a blog. If you pull down the menu, you'll also be able to click on the Events and Workshops page to find out what we're doing right now. And then finally, under the About Us tab, we have a little bit more about the project. So if you want to find out about the toolkit itself and about the project, you can find that here. If you want to find out more about our specific icons that are on the preservation topic pages, you can click here. Our team information is here. We also have had statewide ambassadors who have helped us throughout this 2-year process of building the toolkit, and their information is listed here. And then we have information about Wegoja Foundation, the foundation that has sponsored and created this toolkit. And then finally, we have a feedback. I'm going to go into some of the tools specifically now. So let's look at grants and funding first. So when you open this page, this is how every tool page will open. It'll have a background, and here's those icons that I just mentioned. If you want to find out more about those specific icons, you can click this link here about the icon. And this page will tell you a little bit more. Each icon that we've chosen for the tools and topics pages has a specific relevance to African American history. And so you can read more about those specific icons on this page and why we've chosen them for each of those tools. I'll go back into that grants and funding. So on each page, you'll see a little bit about this resource. When you scroll down, you'll see this search bar. Each grant is searchable by grants and types of funding. So if you want to search for an award versus a grant versus a historic tax credit or evolving fund, that's available there. You can also search for funding for specific topics. And then you can also search for funding by county or statewide. So let's do an example search, and let's search for churches and grants. So you'd click sort list, and you'd pull up a list of all the grants that we have that fund African American churches. So you can see a couple different options here. And if you hover over them, you'll be able to highlight them, and then you can click into each individual record. Let's click into Preserving Black Churches for an example. So when you pull up the record, you'll be able to see a little bit about who provides this grant, a small description, the amount and type of grant, and what the use of funds can be used for. You'll also see what region it serves. So this is a national grant versus a state or a local grant. And then at the top, if you click View this resource, that'll lead you to the external website from the National Trust for Historic Preservation to find out more. Next, we'll take a look at our preservation experts. Again, this is a similar setup. Every tool is set up the same way. If you would like to join our preservation experts database, you can click submit your profile here and fill out the form. We'd love to have more folks join the experts database as well. So this database works similarly in the same way in the search bar. You can search under expert category. So these are all different types of experts that you might need help from to accomplish your preservation project. You can also search by area of expertise. So if you don't know exactly who you need to hire, but you know that you need somebody who specializes in this topic, you can search by expertise there too. And then you can also search by home region, so where these experts are located. So if we do an example search, let's search Historian of African American Studies, and we'll say somebody who specializes in oral histories. When that list pulls up, you'll see that we have several folks who are both historians of African American studies and specialize in oral histories. And you'll see if you click into one of the records again, that you'll find out more information about that person. So whatever they've submitted to our form, their organization, their bio, what their expertise is, and what categories they're an expert in will show up, as well as if their LinkedIn profile and if they've chosen to upload a resume or CV, will upload there. And then you can also email this expert up at the top. Next, we'll showcase the preservation projects map. So this database is a little bit different because it is set up as a map. You'll see here projects from across the state. You can zoom and scroll on the map as needed. If you click on these points here, you'll be able to see projects that have been submitted to our preservation projects map. So this map is intended to document African American preservation projects that are happening across the state. Of course, we'd love folks to join again. And so you can do that here with the Submit Your Project link too. If you click on one of these projects, so let's choose this one as an example, you can click on more details and that will lead you directly to the project itself. It'll show you some descriptions of the project, the start date, the project type, a project website, if there's any links of how to get involved or who to contact that the project has submitted, that will show up here as well. You also have the option, if you scroll down a little further, to have that similar search bar again. So you can search specifically by types of projects if you want to see, for example, all of the cemeteries across the state. You can also search by county as well if you would like to see projects that are listed in your county. The next tool we'll look at are our how-to guides. So these preservation how-to guides are essentially downloadable, shareable PDFs that are a step-by-step guide on how to do some common preservation asks. So these are things that people typically want to know how to do when they're first starting a preservation project. And we also have some things that you may not think of as preservation, but we have guides on those as well. So this is how to acquire a state historical marker. We also have how to apply for the National Register of Historic Places. Collecting family oral histories, you may not think of that as preservation, but preservation is more than just preserving buildings, especially in historic African American communities. And so we created a guide about collecting family stories. We have a guide on how to apply for a preservation grant, how to start a preservation project, how to preserve your family artifacts, and how to explore your family history. Again, those last two are ones you may not think of as preservation, but are definitely included in the definition of preserving. So if we click on one, how to start a preservation project, it will open this PDF here, and you'll be able to scroll down. You'll see all of the information that we have. I won't scroll through the whole thing since it is quite long, but this is a great guide for you to download and share with folks. You can save it, print it. It's all easily accessible. I'll also demonstrate rules and regulations. Historic preservation can be often complex and challenging. There's a lot of different regulations that you might have to follow to restore a historic building. And so this database lists some different rules and regulations that you might have to follow. So you can search by type of regulation. That can be a local regulation like a city or town, county, federal, or state. You can also search by county. A lot of counties have their own specific regulations. Or you can search by topic. So if you're not quite sure of your county or your local regulations, but you want to find out specifically about cemetery regulations or historic districts, you can do that here. We also have community and connections. So this is our community forum. If you click this link, it will lead you to our Facebook group where we have almost 200 people joined across the state to talk about preservation issues in their communities. And the goal of this forum is really to encourage communication across the state. We know that there's a lot of silos in specific areas, but we want to connect people across the state doing African American preservation work. Moving on to our preservation topics, I won't go through every single one of these, but they are set up in a very similar way. So for example, let's choose cemeteries. So when you open this page, you'll see a little bit about this resource. And again, these preservation topics are topic pages that have curated information all about cemeteries. So the Knowledge Center on each preservation topic page has all the relevant blog posts that are related to cemetery. This section shows the relevant how-to guides. So how-to guides that might be most relevant to the topic of preserving cemeteries here. And then we have a helpful resources section. So each topic page has specific resources that we have curated that we think are helpful for folks who want to know more about preserving cemeteries. So these might be PDF guides, they might be links to other websites and other online resources. So each topic page is set up in the same way. Let's look at why preservation. So this leads us to what is historic preservation. So we have a little bit of a blurb about what historic preservation is and what it means to us at Wegoja Foundation. We give a background on the history of historic preservation. We talk about the reality of historic preservation for African American communities. We talk about what is currently going on in preservation efforts in African American communities and how we define preservation in this toolkit. So we recognize that in South Carolina, preservation is not just necessarily old buildings and structures, but it's also preserving artifacts and preserving stories and preserving the fabric of community. We also have a glossary of terms, so you can click here to learn more about the glossary of terms, or you can pull down on the menu here to go to glossary. You'll see here some preservation terminology that is commonly used in the preservation world. A lot of these terms may not necessarily be familiar to folks who are not doing preservation work daily. So something like adaptive reuse, if you pull down, you can view the definition of that. And we have quite a few helpful glossary terms on here. Finally, our news and notes. So if you click on news and notes, you will see all of our blog features. This is a highlighted blog up at the top. And then you can also search, you can scroll down through each blog post and pull them up this way. You can also search by specific topic. So if you're interested in blog posts on cemeteries or churches, you can click into them that way. And these blog posts are really helpful because they give you a sense of other folks who have come before you who have done maybe similar projects. A lot of our blog posts also are tips. So this is a really helpful resource as well. If you click on our events and workshops page, you'll see a little bit more about what events we are hosting and where we're at, and you'll see more upcoming workshops and events from us there. Again, here's the About Us link where you can find a little bit more about all of these topics. And finally, if you click on the toolkit logo, that will take you back to the homepage. Thanks so much for viewing the Preservation Toolkit with us, and let us know if you have any questions.